30,000 years ago, before agriculture, before metal, before writing. A human being picked up a lump of wet clay, shaped it with their hands, and put it in fire. What came out changed everything. This is the hidden history of pottery. Before pottery, you could hunt, you could gather, you could start a fire, but you could not store anything. Meat rotted. Grain scattered. Water soaked into the ground. Every meal was immediate. Every resource was temporary. There was no tomorrow, only now. The moment humans learned to fire clay, that changed. Suddenly you could put food away for later. Suddenly winter was survivable. Suddenly a village could eat next week, next month, next season. Pottery did not just change how humans ate, it changed how humans thought. The oldest known pottery in the world was found in a cave in China's Jiangxi province in 2012. Archaeologists carbon-dated fragments of a fired clay vessel to approximately 20 soon BC, 20,000 years ago. During the last ice age, before farming existed anywhere on Earth. These were not settled people with time on their hands. These were nomadic, hunter-gatherers moving across a frozen landscape, and somehow, somewhere in that survival struggle, one of them looked at wet clay and fire and understood something. The vessel they made was simple, rough, thick-walled, lopsided. But it held things, and that was enough. For the next 15,000 years, pottery spread slowly across the human world. Not through trade or conquest, but through the same basic human insight being reached independently, over and over. By people who had never met each other, on opposite sides of the earth, Japan, the Middle East, Africa, the Americas. Every civilization that ever grew past a certain point figured out pottery on its own, because every civilization that ever grew past a certain point needed somewhere to put things. Then around 10,000 BC, something happened that changed pottery from a useful object into the foundation of civilization itself. Farming began, and farming and pottery are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other at scale. Here is why. When humans began growing crops, they immediately had a problem they had never had before. Too much food at once. A harvest produces everything in one moment, and then nothing for months. Without containers, a harvest is useless. The grain rots, the animals eat it, the rain destroys it. Pottery solved this. Clay vessels sealed with cloth or leather could store grain for a year, could hold oil pressed from olives, could ferment grape juice into wine, could carry water from a river to a field a kilometer away. The earliest agricultural settlements across the Fertile Crescent, the region spanning modern Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Iran, are always found with pottery. Always. Archaeologists have never found a sustained farming community without it. Pottery was not a luxury of the agricultural revolution. It was the infrastructure. In ancient Mesopotamia, pottery became something else entirely. It became data. Mesopotamian potters developed a system of standardized vessels, each size corresponding to a specific measured quantity of grain, oil, or liquid. A large jar held exactly a certain amount, a smaller vessel held half that, a cup held a standard portion. These were not just containers. They were units of measurement. They were the first standardized weights and measures in human history. When a farmer paid taxes to the city, he paid in pottery-measured quantities. When a merchant traded oil across the river, the price was set in pottery-measured units. The entire economic system of the ancient world ran on clay. The clay tablet, the surface on which the first writing was invented, was itself a product of the same material and the same technology as the pottery vessel beside it. Writing and pottery were born from the same lump of clay. By the way, if you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who finds the hidden side of history fascinating. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. New episode every week. Now, back to pottery. In ancient Egypt, pottery tells us things that no written record can, because While the scribes wrote about pharaohs and battles and official versions of events, the potters just made pots. And pots break, and broken pots pile up outside every kitchen, every workshop, every ordinary home that ever existed. Archaeologists call these piles of broken pottery sherds, and they are the most reliable historical record we have. From pottery sherds, we know what ordinary Egyptians ate, how they cooked, how much wine they drank, what spices they used, which trade routes carried which goods from which regions. We know more about the daily life of an ordinary Egyptian household from broken pottery than from all the hieroglyphic inscriptions ever carved on temple walls. Pottery is the voice of the ordinary person in history, the people who left no written record, no monument, no official account. Just their pots, just their daily life, pressed into clay and fired into permanence. Then came China, and pottery was never the same again. Around 600 AD, Chinese potters in the Jingdezhen region discovered something that European potters would not figure out for another 1100 years. Porcelain. By combining specific white clay called kaolin with a particular feldspar stone and firing it at temperatures far higher than any kiln in Europe could reach, Chinese potters produced a material that was simultaneously translucent, stronger than ordinary pottery, and startlingly beautiful. European traders who encountered Chinese porcelain in the medieval period were completely baffled. They called it white gold. They had no idea how it was made. The Chinese kept the formula an absolute state secret for centuries, guarded as carefully as any military technology. Marco Polo brought back samples in the 13th century. European nobility paid extraordinary prices for single pieces. Kings displayed Chinese porcelain as a symbol of power and extreme wealth. For over 1,000 years, China held a complete monopoly on the most desirable manufactured object in the world. In 1708, a German alchemist named Ehrenfried Walther von Tschirnhaus and a young chemist named Johann Friedrich Böttger finally cracked the secret in Dresden. After years of failed experiments, they identified kaolin clay in the nearby ore mountains and achieved true porcelain. The King of Saxony, Augustus the Strong, immediately locked Böttger in a castle and refused to let him leave. Terrified that the secret would escape, Böttger spent years as a prisoner of his own success, manufacturing porcelain for the Meissen factory while forbidden from ever leaving the grounds. He died at 37, wealthy on paper, a prisoner in practice. The secret leaked anyway. Within decades, porcelain factories had opened across Europe: Meissen, Sèvres, Wedgwood, Royal Copenhagen, names that still exist today. The most powerful manufacturing secret in the world, held for over 1,000 years, undone by a single escaped worker carrying clay samples across a border. Today, pottery is everywhere and nowhere. Everywhere, because ceramic materials derived directly from the same fired clay technology are in your phone's circuit board, your car's brake pads, your kitchen tiles, the heat shield on spacecraft returning from orbit. Nowhere, because we no longer see it. We call it ceramic. We call it porcelain. We call it technical material. We have forgotten that it started with a person in an Ice Age cave, pressing their hands into wet clay and putting it in fire. The mug on your desk right now, if you have one, is a direct descendant of that moment. 30,000 years of human knowledge, compressed into something you drink coffee from without thinking. Here is what the history of pottery actually is. It is the history of human survival made permanent. Every other great invention, the wheel, the printing press, the ballpoint pen, came after pottery. Came because pottery made settled life possible, made stored food possible, made cities possible. Without pottery, there is no agriculture at scale. Without agriculture, there are no cities. Without cities, there is no writing, no government, no philosophy, no science. Everything that makes human civilization what it is rests, ultimately, on a lump of wet clay pressed by human hands and put in fire 30,000 years ago. The most important object in human history is sitting in your kitchen. Look around. History is everywhere. As always, see you in the past.